Well, the U.S. has just closed a Chinese consulate in Houston, or rather ordered it closed by Friday. I guess they're giving them at least a couple days to get out. And it's not entirely clear why this is happening. It seems pretty sudden, although I guess we can assume that this is tied to some behind-the-scenes stuff, or rather to the ongoing tension between the U.S. and China that has been, I mean, I don't even know when you could say when it started. I mean, I guess the latest thing is the whole virus stuff, but there was also the trade war before that. And so there's just been general friction between Washington and Beijing. Although this, I think that it is fair, as many media outlets and the Chinese are saying, to call this an escalation of sorts. Because but when it comes to these to different states, even states that are not necessarily on the best terms with one another, they tend to respect sort of. I don't mean to sound like a schoolmarm, but diplomatic norms. That's why something like in 1979, the Iranian hostage crisis, the seizure of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, that's why events like that leave such an impact, because normally it's considered to be, pretty sacred ground, those sorts of things. Now, of course, this is a consulate, not an embassy, and it's not like an angry mob charged the Chinese and took them hostage. It's nothing like that. This is not the Iranian hostage crisis. These people are free to leave. They've been asked to leave. But and I believe consulates do not have the same sort of legal protection as embassies. I believe an embassy is considered to be on the same terms as the sovereign territory of that country. Although, something that I'll get to is that the Houston police wanted to enter the premises and were not granted permission for that, which tells me, well, if the Houston police can be told not to enter it, maybe the consulate is somewhat sovereign territory of the, of the Chinese in legal terms. Of course, these are always things that are given to a country, with the consent of the host country. I believe that any country could just take back any embassy that's within their borders and kick the, whoever it is out. So I believe that, legally speaking, the U.S. could kick the Chinese out of not only all their consulates, but their embassy, because it is still fundamentally U.S. territory. I think it's just sort of a custodianship, is the way that, diplomacy and this sort of thing works. But nonetheless, this is still an odd event. And it's something that obviously will provoke a response from the Chinese, at the very least, the closure of a U.S. embassy. Now, the media has, particularly Reuters, I believe, is who broke this, has been reporting that the Chinese are considering closing the Wuhan consulate of the U.S. And the editor of the Chinese Global Times, which is sort of it's a government mouthpiece, but they put out English language stuff, so a lot of people in the West will look to the Global Times for, hey, what's the Chinese government's opinion on this certain matter? And the editor of the Global Times essentially said, oh, this is funny, the U.S. is leaking, seems to be leaking stuff like this to the media, hoping that they'll get away with just, the Chinese closing one of their embassies. And it was the editor's opinion here that the government actually will do something worse than that they will try and punish the U.S. with something more severe than just closing a consulate, and that they'd be lucky if that's all they got off with. And so it's unclear how exactly the Chinese plan to retaliate, and in what the timetable looks like for that. Now, the Trump administration, when they were, speaking about this closure that they've ordered, did not say anything specifically about the Houston consulate. They just said things about China in general, how China takes their intellectual property and they do all sorts of spying and stuff, and China bad. The typical stuff that we've been hearing from the administration for a while. So they didn't specifically say why the Houston embassy. It might just be that they picked the Houston embassy because maybe it's seen as the least important, and they just wanted to take, some feather out of China's cap, just to knock them down a peg and say, this is yours, not anymore, it's ours now. And so there might not have been any specific reason, although Marco Rubio came out and Marco Rubio, who is not exactly the most trustworthy fellow, especially when it comes to this NatSec stuff, if you ask me. But he is saying that, well, the Houston consulate was nothing but a den of spies and should have been closed a long time ago. So I guess you could, based on that tweet, say, okay, well, maybe the U.S. closed this specific embassy in Houston because they thought it was being used for espionage itself, and so this particular consulate was a problem. Although, my response to that would be, oh, wow, breaking news, Marco. A diplomatic establishment was being used for espionage. This is so beyond the pale and completely outside of diplomatic norms. Except it's not. This is pretty much what diplomats do. This is how, pretty much any country with an intelligence agency sends spies into foreign countries. They send them as diplomats. A high percentage of diplomats from a country like China or from the US or from Israel are going to be spies in any country. The same is true with Russia. And the host countries know this. They know that at any given time there's going to be a ton of so-called diplomats in their country that are actually spies. And so when they want to send a message to another country and just sort of be mean, they can point to a bunch of diplomats and say, oh, these guys actually are spies. Oh, we're shocked and appalled. We had no idea. So you're getting kicked out of our country. Well, the fact is they knew the whole time. They just chose not to get rid of them because everybody does this. The U.S. did this to Russia, too, a few years ago, I remember. I think it was right after Trump got elected. Maybe Obama was still president, and they kicked out a bunch of Russian so-called diplomats who were actually spies. But again, it was not, that's the norm, not the exception. There's always lots of spies among diplomats. So in response to all this, the folks at the Chinese consulate appear to be burning a lot of documents, which I guess they keep paper documents there. Who knows, maybe you could argue that's more or less secure than having digital documents. And so people are pointing this and saying, ha, the Chinese are guilty. They're burning all of the stuff that proves that they've been spying. Which again, is dumb, not just for the reason that I said that, well, of course they're spying. But it's also dumb because, you ever seen the movie Argo? You know how in the beginning, when the people are starting to, mount and surround the embassy, all the Americans are just shredding all the documents that they can, and then the shredder breaks, and then I think they burn some of their documents or whatever, or they just start cutting them up with paper, with scissors, and all sorts of things trying to destroy all their documents. Does anyone watch Argo and say, ha, that proves that these Americans, they were just spying on Iran, and these were all their secrets they were trying to cover up, those nasty Americans? No, everyone understands when they watch Argo that, well, whatever documents you have in your building, you don't want these people who hate you coming in and reading everything you have written. I mean, you might as well just upload all of them to Dropbox or whatever and tweet out the link. So, I mean, whether, no matter what the Chinese are doing, even if it was completely innocuous stuff, I'd imagine they would want to destroy all the documents before they leave. So I think that, anyone who's super happy about this should just get off their high horse, because is it a big deal that the U.S. is closing a consulate? Yes. Is what the U.S. is accusing the Chinese of with this particular thing and everything that's going on with the consulate, is that really much of a scandal? Is that really news? Not really. And you kind of, when people, demonstrate their ignorance in this way, it doesn't make me take their opinions too seriously. So we'll have to see what comes of this, but those are my thoughts for now on the whole matter. So if you gained anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.